when we went to West Point, no, when we look at the books and it says that we could organize a political party. Fine, the book says we can organize a political party. How do you do it? You put a petition together, you get a lawyer, and you file your papers in the courts. When we filed the papers in the court, the judge closed the court. For almost a month, the judge could not be found. What's the problem? At some point in time, the judge had to stop because we wouldn't let go. We wouldn't stop. We are going to raise our party. You run today, you will not run tomorrow. And then we wait. And the judge will come back. And then we'll go back. And the judge will run away. And then we wait. Eventually somebody will get tired. Either we will get tired coming with our papers, or you will get tired running and closing the courts. In the end, the judge got tired closing the court. Thank God. The judge looked at the paper, and there were more than 10,000 names on our petition. And the judge said, these are not real people. What do you mean they're not real people? Your Honor, you want to see them? See who? The 10,000 people. See them where? We'll bring them here. The next day, the judge signed the papers. Success of agitation, I think we can check that. Party paper accepted. Then we started the process of we are now a party, PPP. We are now going to now behave like an opposition party to the true party. Where? In Liberia? Yeah, we are a party. That process is treason. As a party, we want to use the city hall to have a meeting. No. You people are scalawags. Disgruntled elements. We are disgruntled elements. We are disgruntled, yeah. But then you cannot use the city hall. Oh yeah? Then we'll use the beach. You can't stop us from using the beach. So the government went and got some soldiers and put them on the beach. To do what? The soldiers that they had, they came from West Point. So we went to the beach. And we go to West Point, we tell the people you are supposed to come to South Beach. Where is South Beach? South Beach is next door to Central Prison. Again, you asked me about activism, agitation. Why you want to have a meeting at South Beach next door to Central Prison? Because you're not too far from imprisonment. So just be right there so that they won't have to drag it too long. That's the rhetorics. And as you are going to South Beach, pass through Maban Point. And look at the houses along the road as you come to the meeting. And people from Clarktown, West Point, and all those kind of places are passing through Maban Point and looking at these monstrous structures. And they got angrier and angrier and angrier. And then we'll go to the beach and we'll deliver our messages. The struggle continues in the cause of the people. You are the people. We will struggle for you. Don't relent. We will get there. But there will be multi-party in this nation. Somewhere along the way, the leaders of this group are imprisoned. Success? No, that's not what we're hoping for. And in the prison, it is not happening now. It is not happening now. Praise God. They began to beat on Matthews and Bole and Kuya and Tapla and George and you name it. Who's doing the beating? The soldiers from Grand Jide. And Bole began to cry in crown. Now, whoa. And then the person that doing the beating said, wait a minute. Then to Bole. On the day the coup took place, Though people went to the prison and they opened the gates of hell. And the man who was doing the beating, I forgot his name now. He died right there. Success? No, that cannot be the success we're talking about. Government is overthrown. People are killed. No, that's not what we're talking about. At the end of the day, the Civil War, activism. Today, 22 persons contested the presidency. Hallelujah. At long last. It is no longer treason to want to be president. Shall we say thanks to the agitation of those days, thanks for men standing up and taking beating, so that today we have 30 political parties. Some are gone to their grave now. But I guess that's how it is. That's what they call the struggle for freedom. You've never seen them whip somebody and gave him 50 lashes. 2 are counted as 1. You've never seen it. That's what the agitation was about. And this day will come. Today, we have 15 candidates in Grand Group running to be senator. 15. Small Lake County. Success story? It's been very expensive. But I think we can say that we've succeeded. As an advocate, I will not get in the streets again to protest, because I'm part of the government now. You try to kick me out of the government today because you say I don't belong to your party, you're in trouble. You are in serious trouble. Why not give me a chance? Why not? The government is for us. The government is not for them. The government is for us. So if I want to get involved with government, why you want to obstruct my getting involved? It's one thing to say I will not appoint you, which is fair. I mean, you don't have to appoint me. When it comes to elections, put my name on the ballot. If I'm qualified, people will vote. So today, multi-party democracy has arrived at last. Success story. There's an article in our constitution that says that anything done that suggests one party state is unconstitutional. That's our success story. We have succeeded.
Thank you very much.
Yes, ma'am.
For your testimony and for agreeing to come to the commission. In your opening statement, you said Liberia in 1847 depend on America for survival. And after 161 years, Liberia still depend on the U.S. for survival. With a nation less than 4 million as decision maker now, what is responsible for this with abundant resource?
We have not recognized the power of the people. We think that the power of this nation is in America. As soon as we begin to do grassroots elections, this will change. Oh, that suffering you see in rural Liberia, it will stop. As soon as you start to recognize, you elect your own paramount chief. If he doesn't seek your interest, you're moving through a process, whatever. You elect your own frequent elections so that the people will take charge for their own welfare and well-being. Nobody is going to liberate us here. So the way to stop it, and I'm not saying anything against the United States. The United States is a superpower. But to sit down here and say they bring our rare, I used to hear people say that they brought our rare, asking for their rice from America. So, local elections, do it one time. That's why when we put together the self program, the key was you elect your own leaders. WFP or me as head of self, I'm not going to tell you who should be on your team. Elect your own leaders. If they cheat, you deal with them. So in the neighborhoods, and some people here can remember, where the list is frauded, some people had to run away from their own homes in the neighborhood. You put the government in the hands of Liberians and the corruption will stop. But as long as you concentrate everything in the Ministry of Finance and in the President's office, corruption will not stop. Sorry, it will not stop. Because, as I said earlier, my dear, the house slave, you know how the house slave used to get things out of the master's house to take outside to the field slave? It to steal it. That's how the house slave used to do it. And that culture is what we build the government with. The government is a stealing forum. You want to steal, you go into government. As soon as you put the government into the hands of the Liberian people, the stealing will start. Because if you steal the people will get you out of office. And we're not talking using violence now. The mechanism is, here's an elected official who we believe is not seeking our interest. It's not making laws to advance our development. Next election, we'll vote you out of office. Simple and clear. I'm a senator now. I do intend to run for a second term. I better do a good job. Monrovia is not going to help me. If I do not satisfy the people of Grand Coup County, and when the time comes for me to sit down and say, the past 6 years, these are the things that I advocated for you, this is what is happening, they'll vote me out of office. Simple. But if come 2011, if I can point to some things, if I can point to the budget that when I became senator, and a lot of things are happening now, don't let me start campaigning on this program right now, but the key to it is, as a politician elected by the people, you must satisfy the people. If you satisfy them, they will keep you there. One American senator came to visit us. He's been in the U.S. Senate for 30 years. And I asked him, how you manage? And he told me, he said, just satisfy your constituency. Put things in the budget for your constituency. So you know what we're doing now? This year budget, each county got 600,000 plus 200,000 plus other money. Grand Coup County, for example, this year budget has 1.2 million. That does not include the budget of the superintendent. Those are the kind of things that the lawmaker of the people is supposed to do. At least that's what I think. It might not be enough when I go to the people and say, no, it's not enough, make it 2 million. You know? That's what I'm talking about. Put the government in the hands of the people.
Thank you very much. Now you said you served in the Doe government as deputy director at the GSC, and then you was later dispensed. So what was responsible for that?
Well, Mr. Taylor, who was the boss man at the time, fell out of grace with Mr. Doe, and Doe transferred him to Ministry of Commerce and brought in my friend and brother Clarence Momolu. Well, when Mr. Momolu came in, he classified me as Taylor man. So he had me say, you are suspended for time indefinite. That's how I left the Doe government. That was what I was responsible. But then, did I do anything wrong? No. The system that I was putting in place, that is the same system GSA trying to use today. So, where did I go wrong? There's some work that I did in the Ministry of Finance in 1980, early 1980, before the coup. Late 79, 80. Madam Selly was finance minister then. She asked me, I have some computer background, can you help the people down in the EDP section where they do the payroll to put a system there? I said, yes. I went there, we worked on the system. That is the system that they're still using today. During the heat of the war, the system that are designed for relief food, the SELF program, every time people go around, they talk about it. We were delivering food stamps door to door, just like you deliver a letter. We had address for every house. We had an address for every house. Those are the kind of thing that we're supposed to be doing. And so when you see these kinds of capacities, what do you do with them? You dump them? Right now, I'm fighting. Me and my colleagues are fighting for the people of the country because we got elected. We are very conscious of the fact that we go back to them to ask them maybe for re-election, whatever it is. We got a report, and we're fighting to make sure that we capture their interest in the budget. That's why you see the budget is taking a different tone now. We're trying to make the budget constituency sensitive. That's the new phrase now. So that at the end of the day, 298 million. How much of that 298 million is going to Grand Crew or Lofa or Bon? Up to now, the government of Liberia, just a recent thing now that we are putting in place, the government of Liberia never could account for money going to counties. How come? Well, that has changed now. The next year budget, you will see all the counties listed. In fact, we have a schedule. Monrovia County, this year budget, more than 15 million for Monrovia. Grand Crew, 1.2. Lofa, this. Nimba, 3 million. But we are making the budget constituency sensitive. That's what happens when you decentralize and you put people in charge.
And my question now will be based on your previous position now, a decision maker, an activist, an advocate. You know, many people have a lot of reason as to what really caused the Liberian civil conflict. And you said in Taylor government you served as director of cabinet, and you had three main objectives: good governance, restructuring of the army, government performance report. I want us to look at good governance in the view of reviewing the past government, like for example, Talbot regime, the Dole regime, and the Taylor regime, in terms of the governance process. What went wrong? What were the good things and what are the bad things? I know that Talbot was overthrown because of corruption, and then in Dole government, the same corruption was there. I also want you to look at your human rights record as well. Thank you.
With Talbot, I will have to talk. I was not a member of the Talbot government, so I have to now talk about what we read and what we saw and all of that. Mr. Talbot tried to introduce measures to make the government accountable. He started opening up the government and introduced a whole series of policies and programs ranging from mat to mattress to anti-corruption. Those were measures that President Talbot was trying to introduce to make the government accountable. But this was a whole system. It couldn't respond to the process. In the meantime, when people saw that by liberalizing you gave room for people to criticize government, the whole thing got out of hand. The critics of the Talbot government took the upper hand. Meanwhile, the conservatives in the Talbot government were not comfortable, and they decided to react by accusing people of being anti-government and therefore not to be listened to. So Talbot was not able to balance the forces, and he got swallowed up by the attending consequences. With the Dole government, a coup has happened. They removed the government to do what? To put in place a new order that would be what? More transparent, or more accountable, and all these kinds of things. Yes. Initially, Mr. Dole brought in technicians to see that this accountability and transparency factor was brought in, but he collapsed. The Americans decided to help. They brought in the operational experts, OPEX. But again, people in the government were not willing to change the system. OPEX failed. So those efforts to straighten out the government and make it clean failed. As soon as the OPEC failed, the Americans dumped him. The next thing you know, Mr. Taylor was coming to shoot him out of office. So he lost out. The transitional phases, well, there was not time for anybody to put any system in place. The only time we actually attempted was during the Julie Bryant time to try to put some kind of system in place, but only concentrating on election. With the international community, heavy support. So we conducted an election that all of us feel was reasonably done. I mean, for the first time, people in rural Liberia registered to vote. For the first time, they actually saw their candidates. I went all over Grand Crew County for 2 months. I went to places that I had never been before in my life. And the people saw me. Okay? So during Bryant time, there was an attempt to experiment with a system. Now we have a regular government now.
That's about Taylor government. The
Taylor government, again, when Taylor came in, after immediately following the war, there was this euphoria that free at last, free at last. But then Mr. Taylor was not able to get rid of the guns from around him. And even if he tried, I mean, one has to be a little, you have to be a little bit balanced here. Taylor became, the election was over in 97. By January 98, there was a war starting in Lofa. And that sort of derailed Mr. Taylor. Then there was this situation with Roosevelt Johnson and Camp Johnson Road. So he spent a good part of the first 90 days trying to gain control of power here. And he never recovered from it until everything blew up. But in the meantime, initiatives were taken, at least the one I was involved with. For example, the pursuit of quote-unquote good governance. What is governance? For the first time, Liberian people started understanding this thing called governance and not government. Two different things. People started talking, the government is corrupt. Ministers and all that, we are corrupt. That was Taylor's effort. But all this war business did not allow things to settle down. Even the restructuring of the army, a plan was put together to do it in an orderly way. That plan had to be abandoned because, again, you can't restructure an army that is fighting. There were some other things that Mr. Taylor, I'm sure, tried to do, but the one that I was involved with are the one I just gave account. There was this thing about let each agency present a performance report at the end of a quarter. Today you are hearing that again. We are beginning to demand performance report. Performance report. So it's that same theme. We have not achieved it. Madam Salif is also pushing the theme. It's a song that we sang before. I'm hoping that we are able to settle down sufficiently calm enough to see to it that these things fall into place. The government of Liberia is trying to write off $4 billion debt. The world community has given us certain guidelines that we must follow in order to write this debt off. If that debt is not written off, we'll have problems. So all the things about transparency, budgets, accountability, those are all requirements for writing off the debts. And even this hearing that we are having here is part of calm the country down, let people have a place to go and talk about their problems. So your own job becomes important, even though I have a very strong critical review of the commission. But so I don't know if that answers your query.
Thank you. You were the Director General of the Cabinet?
Yes, ma'am.
During the last phase of President Taylor?
Yes.
On one of President Taylor's visits to Ghana, an indictment was read to him, but with the help of our ECOWAS brother, he came back, nothing happened. Mrs. Isaac V. came to this commission, testifying to the TRC about what happened to her husband on former President Taylor's arrival in the country. We gather that a cabinet meeting was called at the house of President Taylor, the White Flower, and firstly, the former President Benjamin Iti was invited. After he left, later on, John Yomi came. At the cabinet meeting, they say all ministers that day were present. And because of what happened there that day, when John Yomi came downstairs, Isaac V and John Yomi were carried, and that was an end to their life. The information we gathered was that because Yomi saw what happened to V, he already entered the Zoo bush, so he couldn't go. Can you tell us what really happened during in the cabinet meeting that day?
I was not in the country. I was in Ghana then. This particular thing you're talking about, I was in Ghana. So I really don't know what happened that day. Not to say that if I were here, it would have made a difference, but I was not here. So it's difficult for me to say anything about the body languages of people, the conversations that took place, the interaction. Unfortunately, I was not here. Both gentlemen were friends of mine, very close friends of mine. And up to this day, I'm still grieving.
Did you gather any information as to what happened?
No, ma'am. I have not made any effort to investigate. I leave that to the state to find out what happened to these brothers. The other day, I was in conversation with President Sirleaf. And I told her that she should be very careful with this rapid response unit. What do you call it? This emergency response unit. And I said, President Talbot, and I'm talking with the president, just thinking aloud. President Talbot had the strike force. Mr. Doe had the SATU. Mr. Taylor had the ATU and the SOD. Be careful with that emergency response unit. You are dealing with an environment where people are extremely indisciplined. She looked at me to say, I know what you say.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Thank you very much. I'd like to ask a question about systems and institution building. Is there something we seem to be missing when it comes to perfecting systems and strengthening our institutions? Is it that we fail to build upon past efforts or to learn lessons from the past? A typical case is self-operations in the communities and how effective it was in managing humanitarian relief, at least in getting it out to people. The communities were more holistic, organized, and structured. When it came to security during the Octopus operation, there was those structures that were very, very effective in providing neighborhood watch and all of that. It provided geographical demarcation of what a neighborhood is and what a community is structurally, policy-wise. And because of the effective way in which ration coupons were delivered, it was possible to have meal delivery. But after the crisis, we seem to have forgotten about the whole system, and not much effort or not much is being said about how we can improve upon it. Yesterday we were speaking of decentralization. I think that's another form of effective decentralization as far as empowering communities are concerned. What's your take? What do you think is wrong with our national psyche? Are we not a people, because of the way the state was organized, we haven't been people-centered, are we not conscious of efforts made by prior institutions or our predecessors? Just what is wrong? I think we have a fundamental problem there.
Commissioner, my take on this issue is that there's got to be something in our culture, in our value system that finds systems repugnant. Either it's cultural, but there's something that finds system repugnant, and I'm trying to find it. Let me share with you some of the things I've come up with. And I don't think they answer the question, but at least I'm working with those findings. We don't believe in fairness. We seem not to believe in fairness. It's fair only when it satisfies me, and not when it satisfies you. Now, is that cultural? When we say that, we have to be careful how we say this. Otherwise, culturally, we condemn ourselves for something that we have no control over. Our cultural value system does not recognize fairness. And because of this, we don't like systems. A system is supposed to work for anybody that qualifies, that meets the criteria set for that system to respond. We are a 161-year-old democracy. Why is it that our public payroll system does not have a controlling code for every Tom, Dick, and Harris? A number that is your number that can never be mine. How long does it take before we can use some tool like that? And we have to always reflect as to what happens in the great United States, because that's the play we try to copy. 578-783422. 578-783422. What is that number? You want to take a guess?
Your social security number.
That is my social security number in the United States. I've been away from the States for more than 20 years. That number is my number. Nobody else in the whole world, in America, from now until the end of time, will get that number. 578-783422. Is that Blamo Nelson? Who the hell is, excuse my language. Yeah, who is he? We're not here for that. Why can't we introduce some kind of blind identity system? That's what I did during the SELF program. Everybody was a number. So if you're my sister, you're my uncle, you're my cousin, I don't care. What's your house number? And if this is your house number, it's in the system. Don't worry about it. My job is to make sure that your house number is in the system. Once it's in the system, and the number of persons in your house is calculated, and it's 10, you will get what all houses with 10 persons will get. Doesn't matter whether you're my uncle, you're my wife, you got a house number with 10 persons, you will get the same thing as Jerome Verdier house that got 10 persons. System. And until we can put a system in place, coupled with decentralization, and you will notice you cannot put a system in place until you decentralize, because the system takes into account the smallest element of the structure. That's what a system is. A lot of little elements working together to achieve a collective goal. That's a system. If you take away any part of that system, it will exhibit the tendencies of the entire system. But if you take a part away, the system will start to vibrate. That's a system. No wonder we don't have systems in Liberia. Because we're not worried about the minute element. Everything is at the top. It was just the other day we had the budget structure in a way that we can code the budget lines. As soon as we slip into system mode, it means we got to go to the bottom of the nation and account for the town. I tell you something. When you have a hand pump, where are you going to carry this hand pump? You are carrying the hand pump to a town. Do you know where the town is? If you don't know where the town is, then how can you carry a hand pump there? The government of Liberia cannot deliver payroll checks to teachers in the schools. Why? You are an employer. This is government. And the government cannot deliver a paycheck to a teacher in a classroom in Niplepo. So who needs a government like that? Do you understand why the people at Niplepo got to resist this Monrovia-based government? That's what the fight is about. The people of Niplepo, Grand Coup County, want to be counted. And if the government of Liberia cannot account for them, then the government is in trouble. Systems. The Elections Commission did something here that many people have not really taken note of. They register everybody that should have been registered. 1.something million. It's never been done before in the history of the country. They did that in 2 months. 205. In 2 months, 1.4 million were given photo ID. This government here cannot do it. Isn't that serious people there? This government cannot deliver a paycheck. So we move the paychecks into the county headquarters. We're making progress now. Now let me just say this, be patient, we'll get there. Right now the government is not able to do it, so let's do it slowly. All right, okay. Given my mode I'm in now. If that was the old days, I'd be yelling. But today, I understand. So can we move the check to the county seat? Yes. To move the check to the county seat is war. It's a fight. But this government is trying. Moving the check to the county seat. Every time the check goes into the county seat, all the teachers and health workers and everybody got to come to the county seat. What happened with the schools? They closed. Source of conflict. The students that are supposed to be taught for 21 days in a month are now being taught for 5 days. You're looking for a source of conflict? At the end of the year, instead of having 10 months of real schooling, they have only 2 months of real schooling. And then you graduate them. And you get a certificate. Where they go with that kind of paper? Nowhere. They can't write a sentence because the teacher was running behind the paycheck. So the government, let's think about system. Take the check to the place. To do that means you got to first account for all the schools and where they are. So we call the Minister of Education. Mr. Minister, can you give us a list of all schools in Liberia? Yes, we can do that. Surprisingly, the Ministry of Education today has a directory of all the schools. Name of school, the town in which the school is located, the name of the principal. We're making progress. So now we got a school name. Can we get a check there? No, it's not possible. Not right now. Okay. Last week, I had a meeting with the Ministry of Finance people. The Deputy Minister for Expenditure came for the hearing. And I'm saying this so that we'll know that progress is being made. It's not as fast, but it's being made. So when the gentleman came, I think Kamara, I was one of those asking, you are going to be Deputy Minister for Expenditure, responsible for check disbursement, yes. Promise me that when you become Deputy Minister, that the checks will be taken to the people in their schools. Senator, it's a promise. But then you are confirmed. That was my attitude. He has been confirmed. Last week, I went to him. And the conversation we had was, Senator, I told him that I was speaking more for Grand Coup than the whole country. So, can you give us a list of all the communities in Grand Coup so that we can go into our computer system and link the employees to the community, and then we'll take the check to the community. Progress, system. So to answer your question, Commissioner, why don't we go into system? Culturally, we don't believe in system. But we don't have a choice now. That culture has to change.
Thank you. One last question. Just wondering, to what extent the cabinet of former President Taylor assumes responsibility for policy decisions and actions of that government. For example, you just mentioned the ATU. There have been cases of apparent human rights violations, as Commissioner Sida tried to outline. Issues of transparency, budget, and which of course was not as very visible as we have in society today. Does the cabinet, or did the cabinet have any role to play to influence policy or the actions of the government at the time?
I'll speak the truth and nothing but the truth.
Please.
The truth shall set you free. I will say up until recently meaning since Madam Selig became president, cabinets have never been people who respected themselves. Maybe during the turbulent time there was some little something about it, but we were not too active in terms of government. We were just criticizing. But in recent time, the Taylor cabinet, for example, was a cabinet of non-equals. And again, this is my assessment. They couldn't flex muscles. They didn't have the self-confidence or the capacity to argue with the president on things that they were supposed to do. The president's view overshadowed everything. It was not a cabinet. A cabinet is supposed to be a forum of equals. And when we say equal, the president is the president. All right? But when you have honorable men sitting to the table, it's a different ball game. And people are brought into the cabinet for what they can bring to make things right. So if the president is saying one thing, the cabinet minister can say, no, it can't be done that way. Mrs. Selig is getting a taste of this. I'm not sure how she's going to manage it at the end of the day, but we have to pray for her. Where there are genuine disagreements between the minister and the president, and the disagreement not leading to destruction, is leading to doing the job properly. I saw that, at least I sensed that with Saye and the president. I attended a number of meetings where the president would generally turn to Saye to get that technical arm of it, not the political arm, because Saye was into technical things. I smelled that. I sense that with Kofi Woods. I sense it. I have not witnessed it, but I sense it. Madam President, we can't do that. I don't see that with the Minister of Justice. I didn't see that with the Minister of Commerce. President says jump, and you jump. So when you talk about a cabinet, the cabinet was not strong. Cabinet was not strong. And you can be strong without being disrespectful. I'm not saying that I'm a strong person. I don't think so. I don't think I'm as strong as I think I should be. I'll give you a little example of a conversation I had with Mr. Taylor earlier on today, when Taylor decided that Michael Francis had made him vex, and I told him, you vex. And honestly, after the encounter with Mr. Taylor, Isma told me, But you crazy? Crazy about what? Well, the president can't get vexed. The president is supposed to get vexed. But you say politely, Mr. President, you can't get angry. You are the president. That's the last place for presidents to get angry. When you get angry, somebody will die. Until you calm down. Okay, that kind of approach, on a number of occasions which I'm not prepared to cite here. I remember there was a conversation with me and Mr. Taylor when they jailed the lawyers, when the legislature jailed the lawyers. Why are you jailing the lawyers? What is happening? Taylor myself talking. We are playing with the pillars of the state. You don't just jail lawyers and go home and say, well, I jailed them. That's not how power is displayed. And we jail them anyway. In the end, the whole government was removed. Finish. We got in the Capitol building, and my colleagues in the Capitol building decided they would jail the Deputy Minister, Setoma, and they jailed him. Gentlemen, you're repeating what Taylor then did. Why you go jail the minister? To prove what? That you're powerful? That's not how power is displayed. We have another situation now. Even though that is a little legally controversial, the Supreme Court ruling on the Senate. The Supreme Court rule, then you say a late. Supreme Court ruling late? You can't do that. So I asked a couple of my colleagues, if a man is about to be executed, death warrant signed at 6 o'clock, and the lawyer of this condemned man rushed to the court, and at 5:58, 2 minutes to the execution time, he gets a Supreme Court order to stay the execution, and he rushes into the prison and gave it to the executioner. The Supreme Court says you should stop. What do you do? Say the minister, where I gotta go, the minister not here, or the president not here? I'm saying this to say, when you have a government of equals, with all due respect to the constituted authority, the president, the vice president, these are constituted authorities. But there's no way the vice president or the president will tell me, jump, yeah, jump. I can't do that. The president will not do that either. Because the president knows that the president is dealing with colleagues. He's not dealing with your little boy down in the kitchen place there. So we sit down, we talk state matter. President and senator. That's what we do. That's what we're supposed to do. Cabinet, you go to the cabinet table, the cabinet ministers are making their case. Of course, they found a decision right with the president after listening to everybody. And now, just because you made a suggestion, then the president didn't go along, then you resign. Sometimes, on principle, you can do that. But you're not the only person in the room. So to answer your question, this is what I like to say. The cabinet was not strong enough. Of course, in the cabinet, war issues were never discussed in the Taylor cabinet. They were always discussed some other place. I don't know the place. But they were never discussed. And if those issues had come to Taylor's cabinet table, I would have been the one to say, no, this is not place for come to talk about war business. Liberia is not at war with anybody. You know, that kind of thing. Yeah.
Thank you very much. Honorable Senator Blamo Nelson. I want to thank you very much for taking up your time and sharing your experience with the Commission. We appreciate it, and as I said in opening, despite our differences with the policy issues of the Commission or its own modus of operation, it's important that we come and make this patriotic contribution towards healing and reconciling our country. This is a process we all must get involved with, and we are very happy and pleased that you have come and spent this day with us. and made your presentation as you did, made the recommendations that you have done, and of course answer our questions. So thank you very much. Before you leave, is there anything finally you'd like to leave with us and of course the people of Liberia?
Yes, I think there are some thoughts I'd like to leave with you, and thank you for the opportunity to close on that note. And the thoughts I'd like to leave with you, without any intention to make a drama, I'd just like to say them as graphically as I wish to say. If the TRC does not quickly bring perpetrator and victim face to face, your entire operation would have been a failure. So far, I have not seen perpetrators and victims talking to each other. And with your guidance, seeking grounds for reconciliation. You seem to be engaged in secrecy about these matters. You have told us that you've gone across the country, you've talked to a wide range of people who claim to be victims. They've told you some of the most horrific stories of their experiences. They've given you names of people who meted out violence against them, unwarrantedly, unwantedly. When are you going to bring those people to face one another in public view? This work is about truth and reconciliation. And you need to quickly bring the perpetrators, not to disgrace them, but to help them demonstrate a contrite heart, which is not a small task. I mean, your challenge is so grave and huge. I don't envy your position. But I expect that God will give you the wisdom and the strength to be able to bring us here. Young man, this lady is saying that you raped her on this date. Do you remember? Who knows? The young man may say, well, you know, yeah, I remember. And the young man himself may go through the story and seek forgiveness. That is not happening now. All the people you have brought here, people who are perceived to be, have cast you out, instead has put the burden on you. You've allowed them to do that instead of helping them to unwind. And the Liberian people, I believe, or maybe I should speak for myself, I'm getting disappointed. To the extent that I have publicly said that the TRC need to come to a close. It's not helping us. And I made those comments because I don't see the perpetrators, I don't see the victims. The United States government gave you, I understand, thousands and thousands of pages of atrocities committed. Where are those pages? Are you keeping them? Are they secret? When do we confront one another? The other day, Prince Johnson came here and said what he had to say, virtually boasting. Zoe Pennon, whose father was slaughtered in the port, took issue with Prince Johnson. Tension started rising out there. Tension provoked by your calling Prince Johnson here. You didn't call Prince Johnson back. Neither did you call Zoe to talk to them. President Selig had to intervene. But President Selig is not the Truth and Reconciliation Commission. So you need to take charge. You need to take charge. Bring us together. Let us face one another. Too much has happened here for us to sweep it under the rug, or for it to be in your files. Take those things out of the files. Let's face one another, please, so that this exercise may not be relegated to one of those promises betrayed. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Senator Nelson. We appreciate, in addition to all we have said and done, your last comments, advising that the Commission takes time off for individual reconciliation. We assure you that that initiative have not, the Commission has not lost sight of that initiative. We have thousands of victims who have been identified, and equally so thousands of perpetrators. The Commission thought to do justice to its mandate by initiating a process where constructively the engagement is ongoing and national reconciliation is being pursued. Howbeit, we take your recommendations into consideration. We still do have another 6 months or so on hand for our operation. Resources are very constraining, and we hope that before the end of this process, we can see some form of healing and reconciliation between individual victims and perpetrators. Thank you very much again for coming. Our session has just ended, and we appreciate your coming.
Thank you very much. It has been my pleasure.
Okay, sir. Good day.